This thread is literally from the future and it costs a lot of money. And yes, it actually lights up. It doesn't glow. It actually emits real light, like a light bulb, via a power source with actual batteries. I'm using this stuff for the very first time to test it out, and the kicker is I cannot mess anything up because if I make one wrong move with this stuff, the entire thing will be ruined and a giant waste of money. So when I got this stuff in the mail, it came in a super nice little package, and I was honestly really scared to handle it at first. I was scared it was going to be really delicate, but turns out it's actually pretty tough. It's a thin copper wire with a coating that lights up when electricity is ran through it, and it's actually pretty rugged. I was pulling on the stuff really hard and it was taking it like a champ. It looks like any ordinary thread. It's just got a blank white grayish look to it. Boring! But when it lights up, you turn off the lights, this stuff glows extremely bright. Also curious to see how it would work with the sewing machine. So I went and routed it through like I normally would, and it looks great.
Oh my god! Wow!
A few other things I would like to point out about this thread. Not only is it extremely cool, it's also got a price to reflect that. I only got 7 feet of this stuff, and it cost $50. That's about $7 and change per foot, which is a lot. If you want to get a bulk spool of this stuff, it's going to run you about $1,000, and that's only for 1,000 feet of it. Because I don't have a lot of this stuff, if I make any mistakes and accidentally cut the thread, everything's ruined and I'm going to have to order more, which is just a terrible hassle. Not only that, I actually can't use my sewing machine because I have the end pre-soldered, which means I won't be able to actually run the thread all the way through the needle. So yes, I'm going to have to do this the hard way and actually hand stitch this when it comes to top stitching.
I'm kind of retarded.
Well, you know what they say, hindsight's 20/20. So I guess I'll just deal with it for now. But in the future, I now know which one to get. And the way I'm going to actually test this thread out, I'm just going to make a super simple black staple-on cushion. It's just going to be an easy square with a seam down the middle, and I'm going to French seam it. Now, I am actually really bad at hand stitching because I use the machine so much. So what I'm going to do, because I have to hand stitch the French seam, I'm actually going to sew the French seam like I normally would, just without any thread, and pre-poke the holes, and use those as a guide, and that's exactly what I did. But just remember, this video is to showcase the thread. It is not to showcase my work. Don't look at the French seam too hard. I always hear the term, measure twice, cut once, but in my case with the upholstery, it's more like measure twice, cut once, realize you cut it wrong, measure twice again, and then cut it again, and then get it right. Because I actually had to cut this cushion out 2 times. For some reason, my brain just couldn't comprehend putting a seam in the middle today, so I obviously ended up figuring it out. It's just one of those days, you know. Now, before one of you guys goes down to the comments and says, oh, there's no way this stuff is real, Adrian's just lying about this, he did it in the editing afterwards, I promise you, my editing is nowhere near good enough to pull this off. There's 0 chance I could ever lie about this. I promise you, the way you see it in this video is the way it looks like in person. Just think about all the crazy stuff you can make. I'm thinking about making me a cool gaming chair out of it, but think of like the cosplay you could do, or like, who knows? While I'm finishing up this cushion, I would just like to let you know that the subscribe button does actually exist, and it actually does this super cool thing whenever you actually click it. It's kind of hard to explain. You just have to see for yourself, really, but it's really cool, I promise. So here's what the finished cushion looks like turned on in full light. You can see I have the strobing effect turned on. It really just looks like it's just changing colors. Doesn't all look that bright. Again, this is in full light, but whenever the lights are dimmed slightly, you can really start to see this thread shine. It is actually glowing pretty bright, and there's still a fair amount of light in the garage right now. And again, I have the strobing effect just so you can see the difference in when it's turned off and on. But then you turn off the lights and this stuff is crazy. I mean, I know you can't really see anything other than 2 blue lines, but it actually emits a lot of light when everything's turned off. I think this stuff is too cool. It could be used for so many different things. I was just giddy the whole time working with this stuff because, I mean, it's crazy seeing this in person. So here's my review of this stuff. My first impression of this stuff, I was actually scared it was really fragile, so I was almost too scared to really handle it. I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to sew with it. Turns out it's actually not that fragile. They do say on the website you do want to be careful of the connections because that tends to be a bit of a breaking point. And there's not a whole lot on the website about the features and specs. They do say it is relatively strong. They don't give an exact tensile strength, but they do confirm it is able to be sewn with a sewing machine. And I have actually seen people post it on Facebook, pictures of them sewing with a sewing machine. So a little bit of pros and cons about this stuff. There are obviously a lot of pros. The pro being literally nothing like this exists to this extent, at least to my knowledge. There's glow in the dark thread, but there's not thread that actually lights up like this. I mean, this has a strobing effect. Thread that has a strobing effect is a crazy thing to say, but it actually exists, so that's a pro. Like, this is a one of a kind to my knowledge. The only con that I noticed about this stuff, as I was hand stitching it, you can imagine the friction pulling it through those holes over and over and over. It did start to wear down on some of the spots a little bit. So actually on the thread, there are spots that are dimmer than others because I'm assuming it was wearing that coating that reacts with electricity and actually lights up. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you're using this stuff. But let's be honest, that's only because I was being so abrasive with it. If I wasn't hand stitching it and sewing it with a sewing machine, I doubt that would be a problem because you're not pulling the entire thread through 500 different holes and wiping off the coating. With that being said, it still looks incredible with the lights off. And as you saw earlier in the video, with the lights on, it's kind of hard to tell, but it almost just looks like it's changing colors. And really, let's be honest, this stuff is kind of meant for dim lighting or zero lighting. With that being said though, I wouldn't recommend building an entire seat out of this stuff. I would definitely only use this for accents. I would for sure not put it on the parts you actually sit on, like the parts you lean on with the backrest or the actual seat part, because I'm pretty sure over time it would eventually wear that coating away, maybe. That's just my guess, though. In my opinion, the best use for this stuff is like really cool accents on some chairs. I wouldn't put them in really abrasive spots on a chair. I would just tastefully add it to whatever I'm doing as a nice accent. And my final verdict, this stuff is super cool. Yes, it does have a bit of a price tag, but also it's a one of a kind. I have never seen anything like this before. And unfortunately, I think that warrants a relatively high price. I really like this stuff. And this isn't even sponsored. It'd be sick if it was. If you like this video, maybe you'll like some of my other videos. Go check them out. And as always, everything I use in here and all of my most common upholstery tools will be in the description if you are curious. So go check those out if you want some on your own. And I will see you guys in the next one.